Hello, and thanks for joining us here today on NCI Live. My name is David Groth. I'm a technical solutions specialist here at Network Center. And today we're going to be talking about Teams calling, direct routing, and bring your own telephone company. Joining me today is Travis Burris, who's the Director of Global Channels and Alliances at NuWave. Hello, Travis. How are you doing today?
David, I'm doing very well, sir. Thank you for allowing me to join you this. I guess it's still morning for me. So, and everybody else that's on there. But,
morning for us as well. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. I want to take a second and remind everyone who's joining us via remotely. We are live on both LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you'd like to go ahead and just chat us your questions directly, both Travis and or I can try to answer those questions and do our best to answer any questions you might have about direct routing, Teams calling, and so on. So with that, Travis, let's talk about direct routing. First of all,
absolutely.
Tell us just real briefly, you're with a company called NuWave. Tell us about you and NuWave and kind of how you got started.
Yeah, no, David, I definitely appreciate that. So as David has stated, my name is Travis Burris. I'm the Director of Global Channels and Alliances here at NuWave. Been in the industry way too long, but we've seen it evolve, right? So now we're into the new world of direct routing and Microsoft Teams and integration. Us as NuWave, a lot of people, for those that don't know us, but then some of them do, they get confused sometimes as we're a UCaaS provider. I'm providing a solution. And we are in some sense, but a lot to keep in mind, as David had stated earlier, we are actually a global voice carrier in the industry for 20 plus years, which we've done the time. But really, our core business model and focus is the direct routing for Microsoft Teams with a very robust administration tool called iPilot, which we'll dig a little into today. So keep in mind, global voice carrier, enablement for Teams. That's our core background, and that's what we've been doing for 20 plus years.
Excellent, excellent. So let's bring it back a little bit. Now, we've talked on NCI Live. We've talked a little bit about, actually more than a little bit. We've talked about Teams calling and what its purpose and what its function is. Now, what we've talked primarily is about using Teams as the phone system. But what we've not really talked about too much is how do we connect to the phone company, and who is the phone company? And I'm using the word phone company as a generic term, but we, in the telecom field, we use the term PSTN connectivity, right?
Correct.
So one option we have is just using Microsoft, right?
Indeed.
But in our areas, or in other areas, we have the idea of bringing your own phone company, BYO phone company. So, and that's where direct routing comes in, right? So what advantages would we have of one versus the other, and or disadvantages of one versus the other?
Well, I don't know if I would classify them advantages or disadvantages.
Sure.
It's really based on the area, right, David? So, in your area, we're dealing with certain companies that we want to integrate into our solution. And so we will continue to use those services, those PSTN connectivities. But the great thing about that, especially with an iPilot platform, to us, it doesn't matter if we want to bring our own carrier, right? Which you're already comfortable with and you've done business with. You're just looking to integrate the Teams experience, right? We want to maybe get away from a legacy solution and go into a enablement of Teams. We can use those. We're not having problems with that. And with iPilot, I can use any co-op global carrier. I can pull those into our iPilot instance for that administration rights, right? And then the second side of that is for customers that maybe are able to do certain things of porting or getting away from certain carriers, is really the quality of service at that point. And what we have seen is, some of our business or a lot of our business are from carriers that aren't performing. The quality of services, the strength of network, the data centers. So really, it's just, once again, I don't know if there's advantages or disadvantages. The advantage though with NuWave is you're getting the administration rights to iPilot and the provisioning and the tight knit, and that's the biggest part of the tight knit integration that we have into the Microsoft platform with our carrier services, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. So in a general sense, right, keeping it very much general with direct routing specifically,
yes,
is it a fair statement to say that, if you use Microsoft you're dealing with Microsoft. That's pretty much it. But with, say, NuWave as your direct routing provider, or say another phone company, PSTN provider, that can provide direct routing services, you have that ability then to, well, number one, get somebody on the phone, to be blunt. I'm going to be just
You nailed that
completely
one right on the
blunt
head,
and
David.
honest, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Correct.
Microsoft is, and Cisco and companies of that nature are 500-pound gorillas. And when it comes to your communication, being able to get somebody on the phone is extremely important.
It can be very difficult, right? It can be very challenging, and there, we've all seen it in our industry. And to your point, though, when it comes to Microsoft or another carrier, the separation of state is the quality of service. And when I say that, I'm talking at a customer level, meaning, hey, I can pick up the phone and call and get a
Yep.
response, or I can send a ticket in for support, or I need to talk to somebody in sales. We're very hands-on and service-driven. We are built on service. Our founders of the company did it the right way in our industry, where they built the back end of the solution, the service, the support, all of the processes and procedures for success, right? Customer service, which a lot of organizations have lost. They lost that concept. And then we built it out to go to market for sale. So that's one of our core strengths, is the service aspect related to our end user customers, and then of course our strategic business partners.
Sure.
And hence why we're doing so well within the industry. So,
Sure,
but yeah, to your
absolutely.
point, you're right. Dealing with and I'm not talking poorly of any company at all, but there are challenges with service aspects, because they are that, the term that you use, the big gorilla in the room, that they just, that's not their core business model. That's not their focus. So turn and burn, I guess you would say.
Yeah, certainly. Do you see that, or have you seen, I should say, that there are more? Let's talk the big three: PSTN, Verizon, AT&T, Level 3, and other big carriers, like really big, nationwide. What do you see do you see them providing more direct routing services, and then secondary to that, do you see smaller carriers following suit? Do you see that kind of thing happening more and more?
We started to see a little bit of that, but through our ventures of sales and within my group, I really don't come up against those carriers quite often.
Sure.
It's more the local representation. I think I don't know if those organizations that you referred to are necessarily. I know they're in talks and they're adapting to it. Have they adopted it quite yet? Not 100%. But eventually they will see the writing on the wall, because obviously everybody's going to the team's clients, and if you look at the number of seats counts deployed last year is just astonishing to me. But really, no, I don't. I necessarily don't see a lot of them in our bidding processes. And we cover, and the reason why I say that is we do cover SMB to mid market all the way up to the enterprise level on that global level. So,
sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, and one of the other things, now this is one thing I've personally enjoyed about direct routing, and again, I want to clarify for those of you who may have just joined us, or understanding what direct routing is that it's the ability to bring your own phone company and be able to route calls in and out through your own carrier, as opposed to using Microsoft. A lot of people don't even know that that's an option. So just to re-clarify that. But one of the things that I like about direct routing is multiple factors. You mentioned customer service. Absolutely, probably number one. If you can't get something to work, being able to pick up that phone, hit a text message or whatever, and get an instantaneous response. And I'm just going to plug your company for a second and say, every contact I've had with your company has been damn near instantaneous.
we appreciate that.
Yep, no worries. But even to that end, I mean, even with your competition, just you still have that gap of it's still better because you can get communication. Otherwise, it's a Microsoft ticket and it might take a day or two. But in addition to that, direct routing offers other pieces to the puzzle, right? Like there's other pieces of telecom that isn't included with Microsoft. Like just with your company, you're offering other things, right? Can you give me some examples of what other things might be involved or
Sure.
included?
So,
excuse me.
Yeah, so included. So, and a lot of times when someone says, "Okay, what," and I want to take a step back, if you don't mind, real quick. Direct
Sure.
routing. really at the end of the day, for those that might not understand it, all we're doing with direct routing is voice enablement into the Teams application for connectivity, right? For voice in internal, external communications. But when you start referring about additional applications, right, where Microsoft is delivering a plan and that's what they're delivering, and you deploy your licenses and away you go. We as NuWave, we're adding additional capabilities into the Teams environment because I look at it as we want to enhance the Teams experience.
Sure.
We're doing this with SMS. We have compliance call recording that we can integrate. We have the cloud fax services. And then for those offices that are still experiencing, they have analog devices, then we can support those as well. So we're adding additional feature sets to the Teams environment as well.
And key to that is that those are things that Microsoft does not have, at least as part of their, when they offer you PSTN connectivity, they're just like, here's phone calls.
Correct.
You can make and receive calls. If you want to do the other stuff, go talk to somebody else.
Yeah, because really at the end of the day, and once again, I'm not talking poorly of anybody, that's not their core business model, right? It's just not, now it's there and people are buying it, but that's not their core. We're a software-based solution for enhancements. And that's what we're delivering with the entire suite that we just talked about, plus the provisioning tool we call iPilot.
Gotcha. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk now. Those of the people that are listening that have that are administrators, more in the technical aspect of Microsoft Teams, they've used the Operator Connect function, and your name pops up. It's like one of the top 5 that pop up right away when you look at it and you search for United States. NuWave is right there.
Correct.
So, how does Operator Connect relate to direct routing? What is that interoperability or connection?
Yeah, so Operator Connect was created by Microsoft to launch, and it is their own provisioning tool for, and I'm not going to dig into a lot of details, but provisioning and trunks and capabilities in that type of scenario. And they've done a wonderful job with the platform, by the way. And so that's their provisioning tool. That's their new automation provisioning tool, right? And some additional tenant management and so forth. But it's great because we were part of the initial program with Microsoft. We were chosen for the first 10, went through the certifications, and my teams, I can't take credit for this, but they did a phenomenal job. Now, what we do though, and I want to keep this in mind, is with, a lot of people go, well, okay, why would I want to go Operator Connect? Or why would I want to go direct routing? It's really a preference at that point in time, right? Best business practices. But the nice thing about that is when we position our product, even though if you go with an Operator Connect, our iPilot platform that I've referred to multiple times, we're actually enhancing the Operator Connect experience with the iPilot with additional capabilities. Right? Where Microsoft, to your point, maybe not, they don't provide like disaster recovery, multiple carrier support, multiple DID support, extension dialing, that type of scenario. So, I would say right now, if I look at the industry, I would say our deployments are probably a 70-30 right now, meaning 70% of our business is still direct routing, 30% is going over to the Operator Connect experience, because they did make it a very simplified process.
Right. So they're really giving, that is one of the things that Microsoft did have the foresight to do, is give you options. And then on your side, on the provider side, you're receiving those options and giving it whatever works best for any customer that's going to be implementing this option. So that's great. That's a great thing. I do want to take a break here real quick and just remind everybody that's watching, please message us your questions. We're live on either LinkedIn or YouTube. Please message us your questions. We have Travis here. He can definitely answer any questions about the direct routing process. I'm definitely very familiar with the Teams product as well as Teams calling. So between the two of us, we can definitely get you an answer. So by all means, message us in. So Travis, back to direct routing. Now, one of the things that I just, and without getting into specifics, so I want to make that clear right now.
Yes.
How would you compare or do a rough cost comparison of the two?
Between, you refer to direct routing, you mean like to us, to Microsoft?
I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. Between Microsoft's calling plans and direct routing type calling plans. Could you make a comparison?
I mean, price wise, yeah. I mean, once again, I don't talk poorly of anybody, but unfortunately, Microsoft's pricing is not as aggressive as other carriers that, and I think that would be a fair statement to make. Now, I know that they get creative sometimes, but really, if you look at the pricing structure, I don't think that they're as competitive in the market compared to other carriers like ourselves within the industry.
And that's a key point, is that it's a competitive market versus Microsoft. They own that because they're all in that one space.
That's correct.
And to be clear, you still have to have the Microsoft component because it's part of their licensing and all that other stuff. But the other piece gets to be a competitive market. And so, you know, there's multiple providers offering direct routing, but you really want to go and look at people that have been doing it, and that's their core business. And I have to plug, you know, I have to say this, you guys have been doing it and you do it right. So it's like two mouse clicks and you're up and going. It's not. I've seen some where they are literally doing the command line commands and here's what you put in, here's what you type, and that's messy. So
well, and that's when you start dealing with you know, not to get too deep here. I don't want to get salesy on everybody, but you know, that's when you start dealing with PowerShell and not the non-automation. That's where we separate. You know, a lot of carriers separate, right? We don't have that PowerShell, et cetera, et cetera. But and that's where the messiness comes into. But to your point, also the value add. And once again, I'm not here to sell anything, but it's the value add. So you know, where Microsoft might not be as price competitive, other carriers are, like ourselves. But we're also providing additional value add behind the scenes, and that's when it's going to come to additional applications. It's also going to come to the additional support and services that are being provided by that carrier as a NuWave. So
absolutely. Excuse me. So when we talk about direct routing, what about things like failover? Is that something that direct routing can provide us?
Well, based on the carrier, all right, it's gonna be based on the carrier. So some carriers can provide, we call it disaster recovery plans. Some can't, where some organizations can route around themselves, like a NuWave. We have that deployed on every one of our deployments. And not to toot our own horn, but we haven't had a customer-facing outage in 11 years based off of this. Now, other organizations, if they don't have that in place, I mean, if Microsoft fails, Teams fails, they're down. And unfortunately, it does happen at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Well, that brings up a good point. So my experience has been that, okay, so we have Microsoft, and Microsoft, again, 500-pound gorilla, they've got support resources and they've got all these things to keep their systems humming along, and their SLAs are way up there. It's either, I don't think it's 5 nines, but it's pretty close. It's like 4 nines and change. It's pretty up there. But we have experienced one customer who's had an outage. Here's the thing. My experience has been that if you do separate the PSTN from Microsoft and the phone system, if something like that should happen, you've got a way to, say, forward your calls to a call center, forward individual lines to cell phones, and business continuity. Business can keep happening.
Absolutely correct.
What are your thoughts on that in terms of, is there a best practice? Is there a like a local box, or versus just letting the carrier handle it? What do you think about that?
Well, no, me personally, I mean, based on today's technology and everything being in the cloud and the data centers that are being utilized with the carriers nowadays, no additional on-premise hardware I would not recommend that. That's just an additional expense. I don't think, you know, back in the day where we had servers everywhere, yes, absolutely. But especially, and I'm going to refer to me right now as NuWave, but like with us, what we do is we have a complete disaster recovery plan where, and this is multiple carriers do this, obviously, but upon failure of Microsoft, obviously they can't route around themselves, right? They're down. With us, we have an action plan put in place on every one of our clients that it's an instant click and everything is then failed over to a secondary number, whatever number assigned on a per user basis. And that's all done through our data centers and you know, cloud SBCs and our carrier services that we're providing. So I don't know if I would recommend any additional hardware because it's all been included, or not all carriers do it, but they should. But with us, we eliminate the hardware cost, if that makes sense, guys.
Yeah. Well, and what do you, now here's another thing that you kind of alluded to, but, and I'm just gonna put it out in Front Street. To the point of innovation. So if Microsoft and say your company or another direct routing provider, what would you say about the speed of feature rollout and innovation? What would you say to that? Like in terms of if you have to compare them and or testing those features, how does that compare between the two of them?
Oh, it's night and day. And I want to be politically
It's a
correct,
loaded
but
question, I won't lie.
no,
But
it is night and day. I mean, once again, I don't talk poorly of anybody, but our skill set is completely different than, and yeah, I work for the is completely different. And David, you said this. I have the best team on the planet, and in the industry. So we're turning out application with a very detailed roadmap on a yearly basis, quarterly basis. That's not every, as a carrier, not all carriers think that way, right? All they're just providing connectivity. So they're not looking at the big picture of, hey, what other applications can we provide? Or they don't have the iPilot tool or something of sort. We continue to enhance that. Where, with Microsoft, once again, when it comes to the direct routing, it is what it is. They're delivering a circuit. They're charging you X amount a month, and that's what they're delivering. Their R&D is based on the Teams clients that we're using. Us as a carrier, different world that we live in, because we aggressively enhance our solution every single quarter.
so I'm going to put you in the hot seat here for just 1 second.
Oh,
so let's
boy,
flip
okay.
the script. No, I'm going to flip the script though. What is the benefit of not using direct routing? Why would we choose Microsoft and using their PSTN solution over direct routing? Because it has to be, it's very successful. People use the Microsoft PSTN and the calling plan all the time. Why?
Why would they use Microsoft? Because of the name Microsoft.
Okay.
They're just comfortable with it, right? I mean, you have this deployed, you have that deployed, and that's really, that's the only, once again, I don't, when it comes to a feature set, application set for direct routing and their services, that's all they're delivering. And a lot of times the only reason why they're using Microsoft as their direct routing service is because the name Microsoft.
Yeah, it's convenient, right? They've got it there already.
Absolutely, that's a great term. It's convenient for them, right?
Yep.
Or like you had stated earlier when we opened up, they don't know better, so they don't know that there's other organizations that can be more competitive.
You don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And that is definitely a fair statement. So we've talked quite a bit about different features, different applications, different I don't know, just a lot of different pieces of direct routing.
Business case scenarios. Yep.
So one of the things that we get a lot up here is what would be involved in a customer who currently has their own telco. What's a typical set of steps to get them connected for their own telco? They have 12 analog lines. I'm just going to give a hypothetical scenario. They have 12 analog lines connected to a Toshiba, whatever, and they're converting to Microsoft Teams, but they want to keep their phone company, or worse yet, they have to keep their phone company.
Right.
What would be a scenario for direct routing? How would they use direct routing to solve this problem?
Well, so with the carrier concept, what we would do at that point in time is, you're going to convert those from your standard analog or PRI or whatever that is to a SIP circuit, pretty much, right? Standard Internet Protocol circuit, which obviously carriers provide. But it's really, and I can't speak on all carriers, but the process is not a difficult process if you're working with the right organization, right? So you literally, what you're doing is you determine your price of cost on a per user basis, how many users. You then do if it's new service, we're going to do a letter of authorization for the carriers. This is what the carriers do. We're going to port those numbers away from the existing carrier. And
they can't port. Remember I said they have to stay with their existing carrier.
Oh, if they have to stay with them, then that's a little different ballgame. Well, I'm not familiar with too many carriers that can do this besides us. And that's
Oh, like I
being
said, speak in general terms, and we
Okay,
can
general
assume it's you.
terms, iPilot platform, we can go in and I can take any global carrier, co-op, I can keep the existing services in place, and I can run them through our iPilot administration tool,
Mhm.
keeping everything in check. But the most important part is now they're getting new technology with their current circuits or technology that they have in place, eliminating the
Yeah.
Toshiba platform. And
Right.
that's a very unique thing in our industry.
Right. You're
So
literally gluing their phone company to Teams, and you're literally the glue. You're sitting between them. And
we're actually so the great thing about that, we're actually integrating into their network through the platform that we have deployed.
okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, we've only got a few minutes left. I'm going to just remind everybody that we're live. And if you have any questions, we're coming up on the end of the program here. So any last minute questions, please don't be shy. Throw them on in here. We want to make sure everyone gets their questions answered. So I'm going to ask you a couple of just real brief questions. I asked this not of everybody, but we've known each other for a little while. What is your favorite geek movie? And I say that in terms of, like, say, cyber movie, like something that has to do with computers,
Oh
hacking,
no!
whatever. I'm
All
put you on
right,
the spot for,
we should have asked my son this. I don't. I'm not into like sci-fi and stuff like that. But he's
Okay.
made me watch them all, so it's going to be probably one of the Star Trek movies.
Okay.
Or actually, the last one I saw was I think it was Rogue. And that
Okay.
was the sci-fi technology things. I remember watching the very first Star Wars. I think it was in '77, something like that. That was the
You and
only
me
one I saw
both.
until Rogue,
Saw
until my
Wrath
son
of
made me.
Khan in the theaters
So
also. So
there we go. Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Yep. So, oh, that's great. No, we had like, and like some of the cyber movies or security movies are like, uh, what do you call it? Sneakers. One of those, like
Oh,
that
yep.
kind.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Another telecom type question for you.
Okay.
Do you remember? Do you know what DTMF stands for?
I do. I know acronyms and I know what it means, but it's
You
the
know what it
dual.
means?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Oh, DTMF. Yes,
Yeah.
that's signal. Yeah.
You know do you know what it stands for?
I knew you're going to ask me. Is it dual multi? Uh, yeah, I can't.
That's all right.
I'm
That's all
good
right.
with acronyms, but yeah,
The
uh,
dual tone multi-frequency.
that's it right there. I knew what it
Yep.
was. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah.
It's the touch tones, but it's dual tone multi-frequency. Yep. I'm
Not to
just
get off not to get off subject, but my very first phone system that I deployed in my early 20s was a 1A2 key system. So that should
oh,
bring back some memories.
whoa, yeah, that puts me in
25
the
pair
Wayback
cabling.
Machine.
Yeah, that was
Yep.
back in the day, right?
Yep.
So.
I did a lot of Merlins,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of AT&T stuff, and a lot of what are they? Nortels,
Hotels. Yep.
mix kicks, just those. Yeah. So
We did well with those products back in the day.
yeah.
They sold
So
themselves. So
yeah. And so these days, I mean, and to kind of bring this full circle, these days we're talking all of our phone calls are essentially just data. And now to get one thing to talk to another, to make that phone ring is really, you just got to find the right service or the right method. You can make just about anything happen. It's a matter of what product, service, hardware do you need between point A and point Z, because you can make anything happen, but you want it to be simple, easy, well managed, right?
yes,
So
sir.
that is the key. Well, we've reached the end of our time here today. I do appreciate all the knowledge and stuff that you've brought with you today. Uh, and
Thank
I
you for
want to
having me,
remind,
David.
no problem. I want, for those of you that are joining us, if you do have additional questions after this broadcast, please feel free to visit us at our website at www.netcenter.net. You can email us at info@netcenter.net or at any of our social media channels. And please don't forget to like and subscribe us on our YouTube channel and click the little notification bell icon so you're notified the next time we go live, which is every 2 weeks. Travis, thanks again for showing up and joining us on NCI Live. We really appreciate it. And I know that we're going to have a lot of people asking more questions about direct routing, because it is a hot topic, and it really does bring full circle the telecom piece of Microsoft Teams.
Absolutely.
So thanks again. And thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you next time on NCI Live. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.